Good morning. At least it's morning here. This morning's Dharma talk is titled Receive. Receive. I'll say it again. Receive. All these sense organs you have, all this sense consciousness that you have, receives the objects that arises in each consciousness, including the mind. You do not create anything. If you think you do, this is the very nature of egos to think I'm doing this, I'm feeling this way, and I don't like that, and I don't approve of this. So receive, don't accept. Receive, don't accept. Why would I say such a thing? I was even told this morning that Bodhidharma said, accept. He didn't say that. He didn't speak English. He said it in Chinese, and those characters, which I looked at, can be interpreted different ways. Sometimes it takes a couple of characters put together in that language to be able to actually make a statement about something. I'm not going to go into that particularly, but I'm saying that the way the characters are put together, and an interpreter could say, this means accept. No, maybe this does mean receive. And they might think, well, what's the difference? You're receiving, you're accepting it. No, you're not. Not the way I use the word. If you receive something, it might be quite a bit of time before you actually have the totality of what you're receiving. But if you accept it, you might, as they say, jump the gun and accept something based on what you think is coming towards you. This is called a concept or an idea or a name. You don't have to do that. You can actually have a little bit more what? Patience. Let something show up the way it shows up. By the time it gets to you, it might not be a dog. It may be a ghost. You thought it was a dog and you walked away. Don't accept. I'm not taking away from anyone who teaches that. You just have to accept things. I understand the intention there. Of course, you're having a lot of negativity. You're having difficulty with your brother-in-law. I just have to accept the way they live and the way they function, the way they talk to you or treat their spouse. But you might want to work with receiving it for a while so you can see the deeper layers of, shall we say, chemistry of any given situation. The dependent origination that is showing up in our lives is extremely complicated. Excuse me. And what you will find out, I feel, I think, and I perceive that you will never be able to get to the bottom of anything. There is no bottom on anything. There's no bottom. This is ego language. We got to get to the bottom of this. No, no, you need to look right at the surface and receive that surface, not accept that surface. That surface immediately turns into a wall of the mind called a concept, an idea, the thinking process, the conclusion, a judgment, and an evaluation, not to mention a translation. I don't think everything you hear may sound like I'm thinking about things. I don't think about anything. I don't need to. Why don't I think about things? Why? I don't know. Let's go to the other W word. What? What is it not to think? When thinking is in the service of the self-centered ego or narcissism, then it just becomes a tool to protect that area from any kind of attack from other judgment, opinion. But when thinking is in the service of consciousness only, or wisdom, or intelligence, or Buddha nature, then you'll only think exactly as much as you need to, and it'll just show up there. And it won't show up to protect anything. If you're protecting something that's unreal, think about it. No, don't think about it. But reflect on it. Don't do that either. What a waste of time that is. It's called paranoia. Well, it's called just fear based on something might happen. We see it all around. Our community's full of that stuff these days, and other days, and probably future days. Not about getting rid of anything. You don't have to accept anything. It's a really good idea to see what it is deeply, so that in any way that you function, either to push on something, pull on something, or ignore something, comes out of your consciousness, your awareness of it, which is not separate from anything. It's not separate from a gopher running behind a tree 50 miles away. It's not separate from that. It's not the same as that, not separate. You can see this. It's possible. If you're listening to me, no guarantee of it, of course, but it's possible that you could realize your true nature and no longer be anchored by thoughts that are based on fear. Got to accept, you're going to have to learn to accept that. No, you don't. You don't have to accept anything. So I'm not saying that accepting is always a cover up. I'm not saying it's always covering things up. But the possibility of that happening is quite strong, unless you're spending some time. Just give things the benefit of the doubt. Allow things to come towards you. Allow your emotions to arise, negativity arise in the mind stream without jumping away from that into what apparently caused it, because probably that just triggered it. There's some area there that triggers something. It is not the cause. But it's much easier for ego to say, well, she said that, he said that, they did that, when actually the emotion you're dealing with came from the 13th century. Because that emotion has never been what? Not accepted, not going there. Received. You've never really felt that. You've never really felt those emotions. They happened to you in consciousness a long time ago when there was a different body altogether. Don't believe anything I'm saying. I'm not asking you to believe it. I'm saying I'm looking at something, I'm talking about it, and I am asking you to consider it. Just consider it. You could do that. Or you could do something else, of course. People get very unhappy. I speak as a teacher. People get very disturbed and unhappy if they give this person permission to teach them. And then if you don't teach them the way they want to be taught, then they get unhappy. I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because it's absurd. It's just absurd that someone would ask for something, and then when you hand it to them, or say, well, this is what you're looking for, and then they throw it away. It's insane. If it's not insane, it is at least absurd. Go study the works of Antonin Artaud, who was a French playwright and actor, called The Theater of the Absurd. Spend some time in it. Or not. So this is what the sitting practice of meditation, when you're sitting still, sitting symmetrical, and you're watching what happens to the mind, this is how you train your mind. When I say train your mind, I'm training your mind. I'm asking you, suggesting to you that you are aware of the degree to which your mind is not trained. It's like you are the dog you're trying to train. And you have to watch that dog or that mind go this way, go that way, and nip at this and bite that and go in circles. You have to observe that. You have to what? Receive that. You don't have to accept it. You have to receive that, so that then each person is different. You see how much pressure you need to put on top of that to push it down a little bit, so you can get an idea of what that energy is. This is very, very subjective, unless you've spent many, many hours, weeks, months, years on the cushion, holding still, sitting symmetrical. You will not get a glimpse of this. And if you do get a glimpse, then you're not done, because a glimpse is a relative thing that comes. It's a glimpse and it goes away. It is not awakening. I don't care how great it feels. Awakening is not an event. It doesn't happen to anybody. If you awaken, you will not think, oh, I'm awake. And you will not think, oh, all this hard work has paid off. The cause and effect are completely bleached out of the whole thing. There is no present. There is no past. There is no future. Those are illusions that have us tied tightly to this illusion of a physical form that is in the other illusion of time and space. These are unreal. They're extremely realistic. Fire burns, water will get you soaking wet. Wind will knock you over, and you can fall down on the dirt. It all seems very convincing. And then the forms that arise in the mind stream are extremely convincing, but they're not real. If you want to see this, if you're interested, if what I'm saying magnetizes you a little bit, the only thing I can say is don't believe anything I'm saying, don't disbelieve anything I'm saying, and don't ignore anything I'm saying. You consider it. Just like having something in your hand, you consider it. No, I don't believe that. I don't disbelieve it. I'm not ignoring it. So consider it, and then spend some time, a lot of time, sitting down, holding still, and look at the asymmetry that is happening in the mind constantly, that wraps up and generates the belief in this knot that is in your heart, called me and my stuff and what I'm afraid of. Don't try to open that. It's unreal. See what it is. And if you see what it is, it just spontaneously will open. No guarantee, but it spontaneously will open. No guarantee. It can't help but open because it is held together by belief. So if you see it, you don't believe it, you don't disbelieve it, and you don't ignore it, it has to come apart. Because it is assuming it is making an assumption that a compounded thing can somehow continue. There's an immediate, well, if you believe that, well, I've always believed that. Well, I was always taught to not kick my dog. I kicked my dog, and my dad said, don't kick your dog. Oh, we've got some training there. Is that a dumb image? Of course it is, but it's like that. It's not that, but it's like that. We feel like we have these relative touchstones or or reference points, and we use those to stabilize that part of the consciousness that is unreal, called ego. But if you receive, eventually that receiving, whether it's through any of the sense seals, including the mind, if you just receive, please, my friends, just receive. It's very hard, and it can get really, really difficult if the people around you are surrounded by people who are not doing that. They're producing all kinds of crap in your direction in order to keep from seeing their true nature because it's too scary. So you may be getting the slings of arrows or outrageous fortune in the form of your next door neighbor, in the form of your spouse, or possibly your mother. Could any number of things could happen. If people are suffering and they're trying to get rid of it, then you may get some of the shrapnel, some of the explosiveness coming from them. If you can, receive it. But don't receive it so that you can be a great, wonderful receiver who's so kind and loving and wants to help everybody. That is not a bodhisattva. The bodhisattva has no credential. The bodhisattva, the enlightening being, does not have any evidence or any proof. Someone is actually living with that vow, they may be invisible. And if they show up too intensely, it freaks people out and they want to destroy you. And they will use their ideas, their beliefs, their opinions, tapping down through history. Anybody who makes too big of a opening as to what this is, they're in trouble. Use anything to stop. I mean, a very simple example is Meister Eckhart in the 13th century. And I don't think the Japanese people were too happy with Dogen in the 13th century also when he was speaking.
Milkabowing, when we're functioning in the illusion, what takes us into the absurdity of that illusion bowing?
if you begin to see that what you're believing in or grasping at or pushing on or trying to control is absurd, is that what you meant? What causes that? What brings that about?
Milkabowing, yeah, it looks really goofy.
I think it's just a sense of humor about it, but it's not something you do. It's something you've looked at the spaciousness by looking at forms that arise in the mind stream. I like it. I don't like it. It's good. It's bad. It shouldn't be. I don't want to feel this way. I feel this way. Why am I feeling this way? All those things by just observing. I just rattle off a few by observing those without fixing them. There's nothing broken. This is completely perfect as it is, but it's not perfect as you think it is. It's perfect as it is. As it is. But how you think it is, then it's a mess. It's a garbage bin. It's difficult, challenging, and scary. Hurts us, hurts our friends, threatens us. The whole world is full of threats right now, as you know. If you join in that and try to fight, it's like fighting an avalanche. You can't do it, but you can look at the avalanche in your mind and see that that is unreal. If you see it as unreal, I'm not saying you won't continue to have some difficulty or some threats, or suffer or be discontent or have difficulty. That may happen for a while. But fundamentally, you'll see what this is.
Milkabowing, when there's something happening that looks practical, that we're concluding, I need to do this because da 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 da, we have a whole storyline around it.
Yes.
What is the absurd part there that we're functioning out of? Fine.
What is the absurd part?
Yes.
That we believe that this caused that, caused that, caused that, and this is happening. So therefore, the whole storyline is looks so realistic. And then it gets absurd if you every now and then you flash at it in such a way that you're, instead of being in the play, in the theater, as the director, as the stage lighting, as one of the main characters, you're in the front row. You just flash. That's all it is. Sitting here looking at the wall, practicing Shikantaza Zazen is just like putting yourself in the front row of that movie we call The Mind. So it starts to look absurd when you realize that you're looking at it. It's realistic. It impinges on all of our sense fields, but it fundamentally has no basis. One of the ways to see that, to help you see that, is to watch a really intense movie, especially when it's really good, that really affects you. It just moves you right out of your seat if you're in the living room of your house into the movie, into that. But since that's all happening in consciousness, the body doesn't move at all, just the consciousness. So we begin to see that it's fundamentally unreal, what we're looking at. Therefore, we stop trying to see that this is unreal. No, this is real, relatively. It's ultimately unreal. More?
Milkabowing, what is it to try to, when we're trying to stop seeing the reality of something like the Kotsu?
I'm not following your question. What is it you want to know? That might be a better, rather than the question as you're phrasing it. What do you want to know? Let me address that question. Go back into a corner. I have a secret for you. Want me to tell you?
Yes.
There are no corners. Never was. That's a creation of the ego.
Milkabowing, that creation looks very solid.
It does.
And you just said not to look for the I don't know, I don't remember how you said it, but something about the unreality of
Look at
it.
the solidity of it. Because that's what's absurd. This is not real. It's here, and it's not real. That will begin to happen with your most angry thoughts about something somebody said. You'll see that they're unreal. They're dependently arisen. There's no self in the skandhas. Form, feeling, perception, concept, consciousness do not add up to anything. That doesn't mean there isn't feeling. That doesn't mean there isn't consciousness. That doesn't mean there isn't a body, but they don't necessarily get together and form a me or a person or not. That's the illusion. Parts getting together to form a whole that is unreal. I think one of the ancient teachings in Buddhism is the practices where you look at a chariot and it's not, chariot is, the wheel is not the chariot, and the what do they call that part inside? The seat. That you could go through the whole thing and pick out all the parts that they don't have. You have to have that all together, and then you have the illusion of a chariot. It's just like if you took a 1962 Chevrolet Impala back to the 13th century, they would not know what that was. It would say, "Oh, that's a antique in reverse." They say that was. They wouldn't know what it was. They wouldn't know what wheels were. They would think they were rubber legs. They probably wouldn't know what rubber was. You follow me a little bit on it? That forms are convincing. The form in space, this one, and the form in the mind. Very, very convincing. This one is so convincing that we just, this is not an illusion, this is real. So you need to look at the solidity of it. Sometimes I whack this and make a sound. That's the unreality of it. Yes.
Milkabowing, is there an attitude that we have to have in order to receive?
The attitude of receiving might show up as seeing how shut down you are. That's what the sitting practice of meditation will help you do. Be responsible for that feeling of wanting to shut off and block and close away or chatter away at ourselves with our thought. That's all thoughts arising are. Barriers to consciousness. Or
When you're bowing, does our karma dictate what thoughts will arise?
karma dictate? Nothing's dictating anything, but there's something, the cause and effect situation that creates the original illusion, which is our lifetime. So the cause and effect has been going on since beginning of time. So it doesn't dictate, it just shows up as the illusion is doing this, and there's the illusion of sun rising and the illusion of the sun going down, which is very realistic. You can enjoy it. You can enjoy the illusion. You can actually enjoy the illusion without even knowing it's an illusion, just thinking it's a real. People are always admiring sunsets. How often do people stand and look up and say, "Isn't that a beautiful noon?" No, it's always sun is setting. Rinpoche used to talk about a setting sun mentality, which just means that everything is, it's a nihilistic approach to everything. That's why he taught the Great Eastern Sun. Everything is arising, everything is showing up. Kind of a interesting kind of positivity. Go ahead.
And you're buying a couple of notes. You said you don't think. Are you talking ultimately? You've used the example before that you don't walk through a window to get out of this building. You walk through a door. Is that thinking?
Yes, when I say I don't think in the conventional the conventional sense of thinking things up. Like everything I'm saying is not based on prior thinking about what I'm going to say. The only thing I had was a talk title. I couldn't even remember what that was. Or did I remember? Somebody had to tell me.
When you're bowing, so another comment you made or teaching, you say it had to do with compounded things. You picked up the quote, so I believe.
All compounded things will vanish.
Is that a belief?
Well, we believe it. We reaffirm things have a reality that enforces the belief in that this is real rather than seeing that it's an illusion. But I'm saying a doorway into seeing that it's an illusion is to look at the solidity of it, because that's what's so convincing. Like if you're in a dream and you're having one of the ways to assist, if you can train yourself to do this, and there are ways to do this. you want to have a lucid dream, probably everybody knows what a lucid dream is, where you wake up inside a dream and you haven't awakened totally, but you realize that you're in a dream. One of the ways to do that is to see some kind of discrepancy in the dream that doesn't make any sense, like a lampshade cannot talk. If you're talking to a lampshade, then you might think, this must be a dream. So it's that kind of doubt you might have. And it works a similar way to look at this kotsu or look at this clock and see this is not real. Especially clocks. Take this back to the 13th century and say, would you like to have one of these? And you say, what is it, a doorstop? Go ahead. I realize I'm losing you here. Pardon.
I'm already lost, so it doesn't matter.
Yes.
Is it a practice to look at all compounded things as
Yes.
coming apart?
Yes, everything is the Buddha's words. All compounded things will vanish. All compounded things will, everything that comes together, including your thoughts, including everything, your hands, these are all coming apart with a different aspect called time. We call it time because we need to call it something, I guess. We're going to bake bread or run to the store, relative stuff.
Montalban, you said that receiving never ends. What do you mean that? And when something shows up that's very uncomfortable.
So the practice is receiving. That's, you try to endeavor as you sit on the cushion and watch what moves. The way I teach it. There are other ways of teaching it. I'm not disagreeing with any of that. Label thinking, do whatever you want to do. Scan your body, and there's lots of ways of doing it. What I'm saying is hold still and just watch what continues to move if you're holding very still. We're just talking about movement. Holding still becomes very obvious that something is happening in the mind called what? Thoughts, emotions, memories. And go from there with your question.
Montalban, so are you receiving? You have often said that you're no longer receiving. You are what you see.
There's still some receiving going on. So I've not reached some kind of other state. That may be coming, I don't know, and don't care. I'm not concerned with that. But the practice of, I'm not trying to receive anything. It's almost, or more like I'm trying to be as bad as I can be. Nobody else wants to be bad, then I'll do it. You follow me a little bit on that? Just a slight bit. True compassion is not being a kind, loving person who's above everybody else and just feels sorry for all the poor, suffering people that don't realize the nature of suffering. No, if it's true, if the teaching of not separate is true, then you have some work to do. You have to look at the negativity that you've been avoiding all your life, trying to be better, trying to not feel, trying to not be. Life is suffering, First Noble Truth. The cause is wanting something else. As long as you want something else, then you have some relative success to get away from the suffering. But if you don't want anything, then suffering is right in your lap, because that's the nature of being alive. Nerve endings are everywhere. More about that, it's a good direction to go.
Montalban, so as a teacher and someone who is in front of students, you're saying you're with our negativity. You are with, or you are.
I am, yeah.
Not with, but you are.
The same thing, I feel
What is
just
showing up
crappy
here.
as you do, or I can't help you. I can't, it's not like you're over here, although as that analogy has been used, the surgeon is going to, was the guru or something, I think Trungpa Rinpoche uses that image, that you can't walk in you're afraid to go in there because the guru is going to perform an operation on you or something. I don't use those images. I'm not disagreeing with that. But I'm just saying to you, you are in this area of consciousness, you're not going to be able to help people if you keep insisting on being a higher level of consciousness than everyone else, more enlightened, or this is what I get so much um, criticism from students is I'm not nice. I don't live up to a standard of being kind and loving and gentle. More.
What about, so if you're saying you're not separate from us, are you our negativity that we are refusing to see?
That does happen. And when that happens, I can't go into detail about it because then I would be accused of gossiping. Of course, and would I be gossiping? Yes, we gossip all the time. It's only about being aware. It's not about not gossiping and living up to some. I'm such a wonderful person. I don't gossip. No, I do gossip. In other words, I listen to you and I talk to somebody else and I might talk to that other person about something that you're experiencing because I know what my intention is. My intention is to help you. I'm not, if you give me permission, you give me permission. If you came and said, well, I give you permission, but not totally. I'm gonna watch what you do and then if I see you not helping me the way I want you to help me, then I'm gonna rescind my permission. Am I getting close to what you're looking for or not?
Well, divine, but in that particular case, all of us are showing up saying we want the teaching,
Yes,
but we're not sure what we're asking for. We're not,
there's no way.
we can't give you 100%.
I know,
But you're not asking for that. You're saying, don't believe,
believe anything.
but look at it. You're asking us to.
All
look
I'm
at it.
saying is, you're coming right back to the title. Don't accept anything, but receive. If you can receive what it is, and if you're really receiving, you won't know what it is. But if you're trying to accept it, then you have to know what it is you're accepting. And so you'll give it names, descriptions, you'll give it a whole nomenclature of what that is, so that and then you get a credential for accepting. You will even brag about it to others. Well, I used to fight against what she was saying or he was saying, but or my life, or I just accepted it. Well, that might work from the point of view of suffering. It might shut out the suffering for a while, but it's just a highly stylized form of ignorance. And it's coming back. Maybe not this month, maybe not this lifetime. What doesn't start can't end. What starts, this body ends. Consciousness does not start, and you are consciousness. Everyone here, if you're listening to me, your true identity is yet to be seen by you. And if you see it, you won't see anything because you can't see yourself. You can't see consciousness because it has no status as a thing, no ontological status. Where you can't see it, you can't see. That's why it's the teaching as it starts out in the Mahayana is shunyata, empty. Everything is empty of other, empty of what you think it is. Empty. It's empty, fundamentally empty, not relatively empty, fundamentally empty.
Well, divine, how do we receive as a practice? We practice receiving and don't believe.
Just through observing, just observe. You might have to observe the way you keep objecting to, the way you keep naming things, the way you might have to do a lot of receiving in that area, which is very negative and very smelly. It's just painful. Necessary to have a teacher, and you have to talk to the teacher about what you're going through. I didn't have the opportunity to talk to either one of my teachers very much, but I talked to them enough that I was able to get what it was I was supposed to be doing, and I did a lot of it.
When you're vowing, on occasion you said it just a few minutes ago that if not this lifetime, maybe another lifetime, it'll show up in another lifetime. Is that something we should feel threatened by, or?
It's just not threatened, it's just a reminder. I'm not saying it may not be another lifetime. It's just a way of talking about consciousness that I'm encouraging you to not fasten down on anything. Don't believe anything. Don't believe anything I say. I don't mean that to be flippant. I'm just saying don't believe. You find out. I am encouraging you. If you don't do anything else, you never listen to another word I say. I'm encouraging you to hold still and watch your mind come and go without accepting it, without rejecting it. In other words, without believing it, without disbelieving it, and without ignoring it. And you can't accomplish that But what's interesting about it in the dynamic of consciousness, where thoughts and emotions and memories and everything are showing up, just like where this world is showing up in a different frequency called a physical situation. It's interesting just by having that teaching and observing that. This is what the Buddha was talking about. Just by watching that, eventually, I'm going to say this very literally, almost storybook-like, eventually the grasping, the rejecting, the passion, the aggression, the ignorance, by just observing that consciousness, which is totally contaminated by all this crap in the world, love and hate and right and wrong and should be and shouldn't be, and I like them, I don't like them, and they're doing this, they're doing that, I'm not going to do that, I'm better than that. I'm just incredible carnival or whatever it may be, just a huge, huge display of otherness, that the consciousness, by watching what moves, you won't be able to correct anything, you don't need to, but by watching it, eventually that part of the consciousness that shows up as an individual imaginary self, parikalpata, that part, without anything even occurring, you just see that you're not what has been showing up in the Upanishads. Way before the Buddha, it was saying one of the practices there was neti, neti, neti. Not this, not this, not this. It's just a way of backing yourself away from this physical insanity into consciousness only, or back where you came from, consciousness only. Consciousness, just consciousness. It's not a Christian, it's not a Buddhist, not a Muslim, not neti, 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 neti. I'm not saying you have to say that. This is my understanding comes from studying the Buddha's Dharma with my teachers. And what I'm saying to you is hold still and do it a lot. Sit symmetrical, which is the only say-so you have about the body, is to hold it symmetrical. And then watch the asymmetry of the mind until you see that that's an illusion. Do it with your mind so that when you get up off the cushion, you see that this is an illusion. It won't be something you do, it'll be something you are. You are the consciousness in which everything is arising. You are this room. You are this light bulb. You are the bird flying by. You are the anger of someone raging against you and shaking your finger at you. You are that. You're not separate from it. No more war forever. Further.
Unreality. In our dedication of merit, we talk about may the merit of this. Is there merit in our practice?
Yes. What you're doing there is you're participating in the illusion as if it were real. You can't help anybody unless you participate in the reality of someone's confusion. You have to be the confusion, which is frightening. If you're on the path to liberation, we have an idea that we're going to get away from all that. Not on this path. That's why the Mahayana is so powerful. Is because you don't get to attain enlightenment. You have to stay there until every single being is awake. That's possible. But it's not a relative possibility. It's ultimately already the case. Has to be realized. You can realize that. It's possible. Do that. Not going to be comfortable. Once you get incarnated, then there's life of suffering, and you have to live that for whatever length of life you have.
Yeah. And this path has no rewards.
It has relative ones, but they come apart like anything relative does. There are other ways of spiritual paths that talk about your reward being in heaven and things like that. So just another way, a very simplistic way of working with people's confusion. I'm not saying it's wrong, just a different level of understanding.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Shoto bowing.
I'm going to come on to Zoom in a few minutes and answer any questions that are here, so I haven't forgotten you. So go ahead, Shoto.
Shoto bowing. It feels like most of my suffering is the most apparent right when I wake up. and as I move throughout the day, it just covers up more and more. Is there any practice when it's really?
Yeah, when you wake up, you're awake. So you see the crap in the world, then slowly you cover it up with this and that, and moving here and hugging Elena and you know, things you can do that make it quite not quite so bad. It's just relative stuff. We're just lost in this three-ring circus of otherness. Not wrong. It's not wrong. You should enjoy yourself. Just spend some time unplugging from everything. Take that word processor and pull it out of the wall and sit down, hold still. Watch what moves, watch what moves, watch what, get back up and hang out. Live your life. Meditation and action is not something I teach. If you want to do that, you're certainly welcome to do it. I just don't teach it. Having practiced it for a long time. Go ahead.
Shadow bowing. If the suffering isn't as a parent, when I'm practicing, am I still practicing?
Yes. More.
Shadow bowing, is there anything about needing to be more exposed to suffering or seeing it more frequently?
No, you don't have to do anything about it. As I said, get to the cushion as much as you can based on how much work I give you to do, which is other than that. Painting the roof, have you got that done yet? Okay, get that roof painted. And put a spark plug in the generator. Okay. I could slip that in somewhere. And was there another? Yes,
Not seeing me
to
bowing.
me.
What is the interaction between a student's unexamined beliefs about the teacher and how the teacher shows up?
Could you paraphrase that? I think I'm tracking you, but I'd like to get closer to what it is you want to know about that. Can you paraphrase it a little bit? What do you want to know?
When we start on the path, we don't really know what we're getting ourselves into,
That's true.
and probably have some beliefs about the teacher.
Yes.
How does that affect the way the teacher shows up?
We're going to project onto the teacher, idealize the teacher, think they're this way and this and this, they're this and they're functioning this way, and that doesn't work because that can't be a teacher because they're doing this or doing that. So it's that does two things. One, that protects the teaching by being so crazy that nobody's going to go there. Therefore, only a few people are going to be able to see that. Does that make it some kind of exclusive? No, it protects it. If you present the truth too directly, you're going to get taken down. The world does not want the truth. Most of the world does not want this. It's busy creating wars, passion, aggression, ignorance, hope, and fear. It wants that kind of control. So you, as a student, go towards the teacher, and then if it's a true teacher, which I mean a teacher that's teaching out of consciousness, not out of thoughts of judging or fixing you or doing anything relative particularly, other than meeting you in the particularity that you believe in, which is your karma, then that teacher, he, she, or they, if they're a true teacher, can see that and know just how much how much feedback to give you, but they can't do it in such a way that you'll never run away, because sometimes it gets very intense. So you may just, I can't do this anymore and leave. Is that the area you're in? Okay, so I would say just do the best we can. We're in a relative realm. And we're contaminated by belief. We're contaminated by right and wrong. Consciousness only. Consciousness is not contaminated. But those things that arise in consciousness cause us to not realize this as consciousness and think there are things, right? Right thing, wrong thing, should be, shouldn't be. He did this, she did this, they did this. We get caught in that trap of a whole situation. Some situations that are very structured are meant to help people, and they block. The whole idea of ethics is a big misunderstanding. If it is obeyed, if it's observed, then it can help you. But if it's obeyed, like you have to do it this way no matter what, then you're then you're just buying into a particular understanding that is very relative and it's structured around belief in right and wrong. So same thing when you come before the teacher, just do the best you can. As a traditional way of saying this in a very ordinary way, get too close to the teacher, you get burned. In other words, you start to see your ego. Get too far away from the teacher, you don't get enough heat. I was so terrified by my teacher, I stayed away from him. But I didn't stay so slow. I did not stay so far away that I didn't see what he was pointing at. So it just took me a long time because I was such a coward. I mean that literally. I could have, when I met Trungpa Rinpoche in 1973, I could have moved right out to Boulder and lived right there, next door to him. I probably could have moved in with him. A lot of people did. But it was just too terrifying for me. So I stayed away, but I studied everything he said. I read his books over and over and over and over again. I read all the seminary transcripts. I went to seminary. I practiced all the time. I formed a group so that I could study, not so much that I could help others, but have a group of people, Sangha, because I saw how valuable that was. Am I giving you too much information here? Okay. But yeah, I'm just saying it's so different for you or for me. Some people, they want to be right there close to, not me. I'm terrified of him. But if he were to show up now, he can't even show up now because he's never left. When he passed away, nothing happened here because I knew who he was not a form, not a living form. Took a long time. More.
Not right now.
Thank you.
Shoto bowing, if you saw that about Rinpoche when he passed away, what was it that Kobun still helped you clarify after that?
I'm not sure where you're going with that.
Shoto bowing, it seems like you had some insight about who Rinpoche was, but you still said like Kobun ground in whatever was left. I'm wondering like what was that?
He was pointing out my self-centeredness and the feeling that I'd been practicing tantric Buddhism for many years, felt like I'd accomplished something and that I didn't need any more help from anybody, including him. He saw that and pointed that out to me in no uncertain terms, as the saying goes. That I was full of myself, self-centered, and was deceived myself into thinking I was somebody who had accomplished something. Yes.
Shoto bowing, could you say that you were functioning as a Pratyeka Buddha until you met Kobun?
I don't really use those. It's just those are meant to be able to be teaching devices, but I wouldn't go that far. No, I wasn't wandering around acting like I was enlightened. And also couldn't have been a Pratyeka Buddha and have a Sangha. People that I worked with, talked to, and tried to help them with but I didn't teach them so much as a teacher. I tried to help them. I promoted studying Trungpa's words and tried to help them, encourage them to meditate more.
Shoto bowing, I feel like when the suffering gets really intense, it's like I can't quite handle that and I cover it up. At some point, do we have to eat all of our suffering at once eventually?
I think so. Just nibble. Just a little bit at a time. Let me go to the Zoom. Jishin, you have a question?
Milkabowing. I'm wondering if there is something like meeting of two intentions, true intentions, the intention of the teacher to help students, and meeting of our true intention, if it is even possible for us to have a true intention. So the question is, what happens if the two true intentions are meeting? Down.
If I follow what you're asking about, and I'm not sure that I do, it's just about the intention. You can't validate that. You can't find it. Well, you don't have a true intention. The only way you can really have any idea around that at all is is to just keep looking into the darkness, looking into not knowing, looking at if you're actually receiving, if you're observing what's happening and you are endeavoring to just receive whatever happens without having a bunch of chemistry laid on top of it, interpretations, judgments, and whatever, then it's probably going to feel pretty lonely. And you won't have a pat on the back saying, you're just intending, you're doing good, keep going. That doesn't mean that the teacher, if you talk to the teacher and share with them the difficulty you're having, that they won't encourage you. I encourage people all the time. My teachers and Coben did not, but I never had a chance to even talk to him. Once he started teaching me, I was stuck with what he taught me, and I spent years looking at that. He wouldn't talk to me anymore, basically. I'm not saying that he wouldn't talk to me if I drove out there and went through his door, maybe. So encouragement, Trunk encouraged me by saying, you can do it. He said that several times when I would talk about how negative I felt. That's what he would say.
Bowing. I remember reading Chogyan Trungpa, but perhaps it was in Cutting Through, when he was saying that we are saying that we want to know the truth, but actually we don't, and we are running away from it. Is it the way of covering that true intention, if it is in us, with all of that corruption? Bowing.
Yes, Jisheen, this is why it's so important to sit still. Call it meditation, call it asparagus. Sit still and watch be as symmetrical as you can physically, and then watch the asymmetry of the mind without accepting it, without rejecting it, without validating it, without justifying it, without explaining it, without making excuses for anything. No elaboration at all. You might have to do a lot of elaboration or blaming, maybe for years, but it's important to just watch that. There is no progress. It's, as Trungpa Rinpoche once said, very helpful phrase that I heard him say many years ago. The path to liberation is one disappointment after another until the final disappointment, which is awakening itself. And it's not actually a disappointment because there's no one left to be disappointed. There's don't misunderstand. I'm not here claiming that I'm egoless or that I'm enlightened. I don't make any claims. If you think I make claims, then let me know what it looks like. If it looks like I'm making claims. The people who think I'm making claims quite often, or think I'm taking a position, quite often they leave. And they probably should, and do whatever they want to do. Karma is very, very complicated. I'm saying there's no positionality. I teach out of what I'm looking at, not out of what I think about or what I relatively know. So all you really have to do when I say all is I'm saying stay in touch with the teacher, stay in touch with the teaching, and stay in touch with the community. Those the three jewels. Stay in touch with that and get to the wall. You can't do this a few hours a week. I'm not saying that wouldn't be helpful to you. I don't know if there's a certain amount of 13 and a half hours or 16 hours and 32 minutes or something. That there isn't anything in there. You'll know that you need to get back, sit down, hold still, and watch the movement of the mind if you start going off into territory where you're buying, believing, going into your thoughts and reifying, validating your emotions and thinking someone's causing this to you, causing you to feel a certain way. Difficult area.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Navid Bowing.
Go ahead, Naveed.
So 10, 12 years ago, because I wanted to be always aware in my dreams, I started to do like very hard dream practices. But after a while, it somehow evolved into some kind of practice that to always be aware, like in the waking life. Of my body, of my surrounding and everything. And now I somehow feel I'm addicted to it. I say I'm addicted because from one hand, I feel that it's always there. And from another, I feel that sometimes it hinders me to be freely in the moment.
Yes. What's the
And
question?
you
What's the question?
and you say that you don't actually practice meditation in action. So I'm wondering
No, I
how I
didn't say
can.
that. No, wait. Let me stop you right there, Naveen. I didn't say you shouldn't. I said I don't teach it. But if you're doing it, then I meet you where you're at. I don't have some kind of the only thing I say is sit down, hold still, and watch the mind. That's the basic teaching. But as far as if you're doing some kind of meditation and action, then I would want to talk to you about it rather than just say don't do that or make you live up to no. I would say everything you've said so far hasn't been too much, but it's been more than I've ever heard from you before in this area. I would say you're doing exactly what you need to do. I see nothing to correct, including the feeling that you're addicted to it. That's actually that is happening in consciousness. That's not a success story. You haven't suddenly, aha, I'm addicted to it. You've not discovered a damn thing. You follow me? You're setting up the polarity of right and wrong. You're giving yourself a hard time with that when you don't need to do that. Just go ahead and continue to do what you're doing. Sounds good to me. Sit a lot.
Maybe bowing.
Yes, go ahead.
You said something interesting
I
a
have.
little while ago that you're trying to be as bad as you can be, something like that.
Yes,
And
I did.
that was very interesting. Can you just say a little bit more about that?
It is my way of saying that I'm not concerned with how I act or how I feel. I'm not sitting back and saying, oh, I don't set up any standards for myself, nor do I set them up for you. But if you're setting up standards for yourself, you might as well be putting a log right in front of yourself and then running towards it and tripping over it. Don't set up standards. And when I say I'm as bad as I can be, it's just a way of saying that I'm not concerned with how I feel or how I act. If I'm concerned with how I feel or how I act, then I'll try to take people who consider being my students and get them to fix themselves and act differently or not be bad. So I'm not deliberately trying to hit people or hurt people, but if somebody is saying something to me, and I necessarily because I'm functioning as that person's teacher and they've given me permission, if anger comes up in me, they are very likely to get it rather than somebody who never gets angry and has control of themselves. I just don't. That also doesn't mean that if you do that, that I'm necessarily going to get angry, even though I feel anger. It will be very, very dependently arisen. I'm not a separate being. I'm separated, just like we all are. I can hit myself in the head, and you guys aren't doing that at all. So we're separate. But fundamentally, we're not separate. And if you see that, then you stop, or you just don't take personal how your emotions and feelings. You can have feelings that belong to everyone. They don't belong. There's no belonging. There's no ownership to anything. Therefore, if you're writing the vow, if you have the vow to be with all things and to save all beings and put others before yourself, you may have to do some pretty horrible things to really help people. This is not an explanation. It's not a justification, and it is terrible. And it is the things that you do that are not comfortable. But if the vow is to help people, then relating with the chaos of the world, you can't just fight a landslide. You can't just go against. You have to be you have to be the landslide to understand what a landslide is. So that when you said about yourself, I'm feeling like I'm addicted, that's the part of it. You're doing the awareness practice, and then you're feeling like, well, I'm probably doing this too much, or this is getting away, or it's taking over my mind as being trying to accomplish being aware all the time. That's awareness. You haven't failed at anything. Sounds good to me. Continue.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. James.
James Bowing. Uh, are there uh are there ways to stop like when you know you're kind of like sinking away from mentally on something to try to stay on it when meditating? You know how if you know that if you know you're sliding off of it, but you can't tell when and where you're sliding off of awareness to actually get back on the subject? Bowing.
No,
Okay. Oh, and also another question. Are there is it considered success if you switch off of unhealthy mental states to more uniformed healthy ones?
well, some people might consider that to be, but it's just a matter of switching. Their mental states are just mental states. They happen to be dark, they happen to be light. And the teaching, one of the teachings in Buddhism, and it's actually talking about what I've said about feeling angry or feeling happy or feeling all these emotions. We keep trying to manipulate all these things, which just reinforces the primary illusion, which is that there's a separate being called you, ego. And so sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced, everything is Buddha. Sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha, everything is Buddha. So don't manipulate anything. Be aware. I'm not saying that you can't go into psychology or talk to some people that'll try to give you ways to not be angry or to switch your mental functioning from positive, negative situations over to positive. Of course, but they do not fundamentally help you. They will not deal with the primary thing that's going to happen, which is death comes without warning. This is your preparation for death if you want it. If you don't want it, then do something else. You can do whatever you want to do. I'm saying train your mind, sit down, hold still, watch the movement of the mind until you find your true nature. Kishin.
I met. Sorry.
Go ahead, James. Go ahead. You met something else?
I didn't mean unhealthy like psychology. I meant unhealthy like having your basis be on an illusion and not the basis being on yourself. Actually yourself, like your basis being on the wrong thing.
There is no wrong thing. There's no wrong thing. That's what you just said is wrong.
Okay. No, I don't want to. I don't want to explain two types of wrong. But
So I'm trying to help you allow things, say it very literally, allow things to rise in consciousness without pushing them away, allow things to rise in consciousness without encouraging them, allow things to rise in consciousness so that you slowly are changing your identity. You could say it this way. It's not exactly this, but it's changing your identity of who you are from the separate ego, hope and fear-based part of consciousness over to just consciousness only, which is fundamentally magnanimous and generous and open and loving all the time. I don't want to get too romantic here because then we try to look for it. You can't look for something you already are. If you're looking for something you already are, you're just chasing your tail in the forest. You don't have to do that. Jishin.
Jishin Bowing. I would like to return to the question which Navid had about you saying that you are sometimes acting in the horrible way in response to people who are in front of you.
Yes.
Is it actually, since my understanding is that you are mirroring what is in front of you, especially with the students, is it basically our ugliness which is seen by something in you, which is responding in the way of showing us what is in us? Bowing.
So you could talk about it that way, but the ultimate understanding is there are no separate beings. But if you think you're a separate being, then the teaching person, they may function in such a way to be mirroring back. I've had many experiences, more than one, of being in the presence of someone who presented as a student, but yet was not aware of what crazy stuff was going on, and I functioned with them in such a way. Not I didn't think it up. I didn't think, oh, they're acting this way. They need to do. No, I was them, and therefore they got to see coming from me what was actually happening in their mind stream. And if they're a student, then they can receive it as a teacher. Occasionally, I have students, when I do that, they immediately say, thank you for the teaching, even though it hurts them. Should they do that? Do I need anybody to say thank you for the teachings? I don't need anything. I don't need to even live another day. Not concerned about that. I'm here as long as I'm alive, I will do what I need to do. The intention is so powerful If we could find a way to hook it up, it would run all the energy in this city.
Thank you. I have one more.
It's not a person. This energy is not a person. And you have access to it. It's consciousness everywhere. It's everywhere. It's in everything. And when you shrink up into a tiny little being that has an agenda about something, and a hatred or an accusation, and you team up with other little individuals that all have this little agenda and tell each other stories, gossiping back and forth about what a horrible person this person is or that person is, or including the crazy person that's running our country. It's just gossip. Will not help you. What will help you and what will help everybody, find out who you are. Don't add to the confusion of the world by thinking you're somebody who knows right from wrong. This is just an incredible misunderstanding. You can find your true nature. You can find it without ever leaving your bedroom. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. I have a question about what you said, that this practice is the preparation for death. Is preparation for death, does it mean to see that ego is unreal?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes.
Elena Bowing, I'm wondering what your teaching would be in this situation where you're having an argument with someone and you're trying to communicate how it looks to you and that person just doesn't see it. Eventually I come to the conclusion where it's like, well, I just accept that that person doesn't understand, or that person can't show up for me in this certain way. Instead of accepting that, what would be your teaching in that
Don't
situation?
even complain to them. Won't say anything. Just receive. You can't really, there is no person, so you can't get anybody on your side. This is what most of the world is doing, trying to get people to agree with them and see things their way. Does it look like that's what I'm trying to do? To some extent? I'm trying to get you to train your mind. So I think you should. But coming back here, go ahead.
Elena Bowing, but if you don't communicate with this person, what do you do about that relationship? Bowing.
Ask them if they want a sandwich. I mean, you could, I'm being silly, but you could change the dynamic so that your relationship has it's a different set of items in it. It's called pacifying. It's called enriching. You can pacify it a little bit. I mean, the suffering that you're having is yours. Receive your suffering. If you're feeling bad, I don't care if this person out here has made a face at you or acted in a certain way that triggers your suffering. It is your suffering, my dear, yours. Receive it right here. You can do that. It might not feel good. It won't feel good. It probably won't feel good. I can guarantee you it won't feel good, because this is the first noble truth. But you can do that. This doesn't mean that you have to suddenly succeed at that. You might do that and fail at it, but the intention to do that is all you have to do. You don't ever have to succeed at that. You can come right out. You can try to do that, and you can't do that, and you end up talking to that other person, trying to explain, and the whole thing falls apart, and they don't understand it. So, but it's the intention. That intention is powerful, but because it is not an item. Go ahead.
Elena Bowing, but if I don't come to some sort of conclusion, such as this person cannot show up for me in the way that I'm needing, wouldn't you just be falling into the same ditch all over again?
Yes, but it's awareness of falling into the ditch that's important, not falling into the ditch. Fall into the ditch and be aware of it. Listen to what I'm saying. Receive what I'm saying. You don't have to fix anything, but you may have to be genuine. You may have to be the shit you're trying to get rid of by trying to convince somebody else, or thinking that they're not able to meet you where you're at. These are all stories about the nature of the confusion. We're just writing plays. We're the actors, we're the directors, we're the stagehands, we're everything. Don't believe it, don't disbelieve it, and certainly don't ignore it. How do you not ignore it? You actually, you are the difficulty. You are that, and that is the path of the Bodhisattva. This is how you eventually are able to save all beings, because you're not separate from them, and you realize it. You can do that. We can close now, I think. Thank you all for attending. I appreciate it very much. I see all of your names on here and I appreciate you attending and giving this whole situation the benefit of the doubt. So thank you for your appearance here.